Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, podcast friends, and welcome back to Minisode number 72 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Today's topic is one that everyone is probably tired of hearing about. It's the one that people just glaze their eyes over whenever they hear other fitness coaches or anybody, high performance coaches, entrepreneur coaches, life coaches. Whenever they talk about it, people are just like, all right, dude, we get it. But we're going to talk about sleep, the most boring and effective fitness tip ever. I've written an article on this, and that's kind of where I'm getting some of this information from, but some of you haven't read it, or we probably just need reminded of it once again. So the reason why I wanted to touch on sleep, even though everyone else has, is that it really is that important. And not only is it just me saying that or other fitness coaches saying it, the science actually backs that up as well. And I get questions daily about the best rep ranges, exercises, or food to eat pre-workout. But most of these mean shit compared to just going to sleep an hour earlier. So real quick, the studies that I want to cover, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into them, but let's go ahead and let me see if I can just tell you the results of these. No, I'll just run through it real quick. So there was a recent 8-week study done in May 2018 that focused on the effects of sleep restriction on weight loss when in a calorie deficit. So they were in a calorie deficit trying to lose body fat. There were 36 people in the study, and they got their body composition, so their muscle and fat loss, tested in week 1 to get a baseline. 15 of those people in group 1 simply used a calorie deficit for the 8-week period. The remaining 21 in group 2 used a calorie deficit combined with sleep restriction for the 8-week period. All right, so the calorie deficit and the sleep restriction for the 8-week period. They were instructed to reduce their time in bed Monday through Friday and could sleep as much as they wanted on the weekend, so they could catch up, quote unquote, on sleep. And this was an average of only 169 minutes less sleep for the entire week compared to group 1, who was only doing the calorie deficit. Well, the results was group 2, so the group that was in a calorie deficit and also had their sleep restricted, lost an average of 39% of their total weight lost as muscle mass and 58% as fat mass. When sleep was not restricted, group 1 subjects lost only 17% of their weight as muscle mass, but 87% as fat mass. This means both groups lost almost exactly the same amount of total weight, but the group with more sleep lost more fat and less muscle, which I think that is just absolutely insane. And so that was one study, right? So it's just like, okay, cool. Maybe it's an anomaly. There wasn't a huge, there wasn't a bunch of subjects. So it's like, okay, well, we need a little bit more data. Well, study 2 in 2010, there was a randomized crossover study of 10 untrained people who moderately restricted calories for 14 days. They did this 14-day study twice to compare effects of different sleep times. For the first 2 weeks, they slept on average 5 hours and 14 minutes while getting their hormones and body composition measured in a lab. This was followed by a 3-month washout period where they still monitored their hormones and body composition, but didn't analyze sleep. Then they had their second period of 14 days, but this time they slept on average for 7 hours and 25 minutes, still getting tested for hormones and body composition. The results, during both periods, they lost about 6.5 pounds, but when they slept for 5 hours per night, they lost 80% of their weight from muscle mass and 20% from fat. To add, they also had increases in hunger throughout the next day, and when they slept 7.5 hours per night, they lost 52% of their weight from muscle and 48% from fat. So it's like, what these studies mean is that sleep may be even more important than your diet whenever it comes to gaining muscle and losing fat, which is just insane. So yeah, when your sleep is poor, you still lose weight with a calorie deficit, but you lose more muscle mass and less fat mass compared to those who get better sleep. And so I tell you guys this because the whole reason whenever I say, oh, you should get better sleep, people just glaze over, right? They're just like, okay, yeah, we freaking know that we need to get better sleep. But it's like, what these studies are telling us is that it could literally be the difference between losing muscle mass or losing fat mass. And not only that, but then other hormones as well, hunger, well-being, all that kind of stuff. It's just sleep. Whenever you know that that's the kind of impact that you're looking at, that's the kind of difference it makes whenever you get, an extra hour of sleep per night, that could raise your incentive a little bit higher. And so the next question becomes, how much sleep should you get? And this is a little bit different for different people throughout different ages of your life. So I'm going to put up a cool little graphic right here, or maybe I'll hit the table over here. And then you can kind of get the gist of where you fall in that range from the sleep foundation. And then real quick, I'm going to run through 20 ways to get the best sleep ever. I'm going to do this real quick. So number one, the obvious, a completely dark room. No lights, no TV, no buttons, nothing. Use complete blackout curtains, complete darkness. And if you can't do that, I like to use an eye mask to block out the light whenever traveling or just for my everyday life. Eye masks and earplugs have been major key for me, which the earplugs I'll get to in a second. But number two, it needs to be cool in your room. So the Sleep Council says 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. And so for me, it's a little bit more reasonable. 65 to 69 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be ideal for me. Number three is going to be eliminate blue light 60 minutes before bed. Most people have iPhones and Mac products that have the night shift effect. Another product is called Flux, so F.LUX, and you can get that, and then it does somewhat of the same thing. You can probably track things a little bit more than you can using just the standard program that comes with your laptop or phone. All right, number four is going to be hot showers 60 to 90 minutes before bed to relax you. And you don't want to do it right before bed because we want our body temperature to get low to sleep. Whenever you sleep, your body temperature drops as well. So we kind of want to get there quickly, but the hot showers typically relax people. So doing them 90 minutes before bed give you a little bit of time to cool down before you actually fall asleep. Number five is going to be playing around with meal timing. And so some people can eat huge meals before bed and fall asleep like a baby, like myself. And other people need to wait, like an hour and a half between their last meal and whenever they go to bed. So that could be one way to experiment around with how you fare best. And then other people, if you really want to get experimental, you can play around with low fat and high carb options before bed or high fat and low carb options before bed. You can also play around with low glycemic or high glycemic carbs as your last meal of the day as well. Number six is going to be meditating before bed. And I would recommend using an app. So like Calm, Headspace, or what I like to do is Waking Up. And the app is called Waking Up. Ironically, use it before bed, but just start with just 5 minutes and you should be all set there. Number seven is going to be sleeping with earplugs, just standard earplugs. They even make ones for sleeping things that are like wax. I typically do better with foam ones, and I know it sounds weird at first, but I promise if you can get used to it, it is a complete game changer. And for people who sleep on their sides, it may be a little bit uncomfortable. You may have to go for the wax one so it's not pressuring up into your ear with the earplug. But I typically sleep on my back, so that's pretty helpful. And if you're somebody who thinks they're going to sleep through their alarm, I would test this out on the weekends, see how it goes. But I've literally never slept through my alarm with the earplugs in. So worked for me, could work for you. Number eight is if you're trying to wake up earlier, set your alarm for 15 minutes earlier per day. And after the first week, try another 15 minutes. Or you could just go to bed 15 minutes later than normal. The whole point here is to not make any drastic changes and mess with your sleep cycle too much. Number 9, this one's crucial, is performing a brain dump about 2 hours before bed. We tend to have tons of racing thoughts going through our minds. Get all of that out on paper. I can promise you, you can deal with it tomorrow. Those problems will still be there tomorrow. Just figure out what you need to do, or whatever is going on in your head. It could be what you need to do or just other struggles or anxieties that you have. Put it down on paper, brain dump it. You'll figure it out later. Like, just trust yourself enough that you will figure it out later. Number 10 is going to be, if you can't fall asleep or you wake up in the middle of the night, don't try to fall asleep. This is, so like if falling asleep was easy and we could just like force ourselves to do it, then, everyone would definitely do that. But instead of thinking about, okay, I need to like force myself to fall asleep, I would instead just try and focus on relaxing. That can really help you take your mind off of the pressure of, okay, I need to fall asleep. Instead of doing that, I would say to just focus on your breath. So performing 5 to 10 deep breaths through your stomach and through your diaphragm. So in through your nose for 3 seconds and out through your mouth for 5 seconds. That will just help you naturally relax and then probably fall asleep after that. Number 11. Okay, I'm going to keep running through these a little bit more quickly here. What time are we at? 11 minutes? Yeah. Number 11, eliminate caffeine at least 6 hours before bed. Number 12, the obvious, invest in a comfortable bed and pillows. You sleep for, a large portion of your life. I would definitely consider spending money on that. Number 13 is going to be use melatonin and over-the-counter sleep aids sparingly. The big thing with melatonin is people think that more is better, and that is actually not the case. The studies have shown that you need to start at a lower dose, actually, and the minimum effective dose, which is actually about 0.3 milligrams. So it's going to be 300 micrograms up to 1 milligram is going to be a good starting point. Don't jump to the 5 or 10 milligram gummies. For me, I typically start about 1 milligram, and then that's more than enough. So stick with melatonin, low doses of melatonin, and then the over-the-counter sleep aids only when absolutely necessary. Number 14, go to sleep and wake up at the same time every single day, or at least most days. This will just help regulate your routine and your circadian rhythms and all that kind of fun stuff. 15, a chili pad is this cool device or thing that you can lay underneath your sheets. And if you like to sleep with it really cold underneath you and at a lower temperature, but your partner likes to sleep a little bit warmer, you can balance it out. You can balance out the temperatures and do it manually like that. Number 16 is going to be buy a fancy alarm clock that gradually wakes you up instead of waking you up in a constant state of anxiety from your phone alarm. So the ones that naturally make the room brighter and brighter, that can be one option. Number 17 is limit alcohol use before bed. So it may help you fall asleep, and this is the problem that many people fall into, but the quality of sleep you get is reduced. And also relying on that as a crutch can be dangerous. Number 18, napping may help you mimic a nighttime sleep cycle. So limit naps to 20 to 40 minutes and try to have them at the same time each day to keep things regulated. Number 19, get outside at least 30 minutes each day. Again, this helps with the, just the natural circadian rhythms that most humans have. And number 20 is to use the bed for sleep and sex only. No homework, no work, no eating, nothing but sleep and sex. Okay, that is it for Minisode number 72 on the More Than Fitness podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening and for watching. See ya.